like a silent alarm that refused to sound. I had always sensed something was off about my wife. There was a time when Isabel Whitmore looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and declared, "We will conquer the world together." Her gaze had been filled with fire, her laughter echoing through the room like music. But as the years passed, the warmth of her embrace faded, replaced by a chill I couldn't quite define. It started subtly, the late nights, the clipped tone in her voice, the way she avoided my gaze mid-conversation, as if I no longer deserved her attention. I convinced myself it was just stress, a temporary rough patch. 7 years of marriage had to mean something, right? I was naive. I see that now. I had been clinging to a version of her that no longer existed. We had faced our share of struggles, and I bore much of the burden. Losing my position at the finance firm hit me hard. One day, I was crunching numbers, feeling like I had a purpose. The next, I was packing up my desk, dodging the pitying looks of my colleagues. It wasn't just a paycheck I lost. It was my confidence, my sense of worth as a provider. At first, Isabel tried to be supportive, but her patience wore thin faster than I expected. And then there was the battle with infertility. We had spent years trying for a child, each negative test feeling like a fresh wound. Doctors ran their tests, poked and prodded, and when the results came in, I took the blame. That's what husbands do, right? I let her family whisper behind my back, calling me worthless, while she stood by in silence, never once defending me. I thought we were partners, weathering the storm together. I was wrong. Everything unraveled on my birthday. That morning, I woke with a rare sense of hope. Maybe this was the day things would turn around. Isabel had been distant, yes, but she had made plans. Lunch at a French cafe she adored. It had to mean something. So I dressed in my best shirt, the one she used to say made my eyes stand out, and allowed myself to believe. Maybe she had planned this to remind us of what we still had, of what was worth saving. Maybe I had been overthinking everything. I drove to the restaurant, my heart pounding, nervous, eager, almost like a teenager on his first date. The hostess led me to a private dining room, and for a fleeting moment, pride swelled in my chest. Isabel had really gone all out, but the room was empty. No Isabel, no candles, no carefully planned romantic setting. Just a table set for one, and a single white envelope. A strange sense of unease settled over me as I sat down, my fingers already trembling as I reached for it. I tore it open, expecting a heartfelt letter, maybe even a clue to some surprise she had in store. Instead, I found a signed divorce agreement. Her name sprawled across the page in that elegant, practiced handwriting of hers. And tucked inside was a small note. When I read it, the air left my lungs. Happy birthday. Infertile and jobless trash you just leave. I stared at the words, my mind empty, my chest hollow. 7 years. 7 years of whispered dreams, late-night conversations, quiet mornings with coffee in our kitchen. Reduced to this. She didn't just want to leave. She wanted to destroy me. A waiter entered then, his voice smooth and polite. "Are you ready to order, sir?" I glanced at the table, at the divorce papers sitting there like a cruel centerpiece, and something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Just a quiet, unshakable calm. I looked up at the waiter and said, "Yes, I ate." The waiter brought out the meal, one that Isabel must have ordered in advance, likely planning to sit across from me, playing devoted wife before delivering the final blow. Instead, I dined alone. The soft clinking of my fork against the plate echoed in the empty room, the only sound accompanying my thoughts. With every bite, a single realization took root in my mind. She had no idea what I was capable of. She believed she had won, that she had reduced me to nothing. But this wasn't my downfall. It was my awakening. I finished the meal, paid the bill with the last of the cash in my wallet, and stepped out into the night. The cool air wrapped around me, sharper than before, bracing. For the first time in months, I felt truly alive. Isabel thought she had drawn the final line, secured herself in a fortress built on solid ground. But she didn't know the truth. Not about me, not even about herself. Our marriage had been crumbling long before tonight, but I had been too devoted, too blind to see it for what it was. A house built on sand. And now the tide was coming. Not from her. From me. She had ignited a fire she couldn't control, and I had no intention of letting it consume me. I would rise from this, stronger than she ever imagined. One day, she would regret the moment she decided I was disposable. Because I wasn't finished, not by a long shot. This was just the beginning. With or without her, I was moving forward. Every step I took felt like a silent victory, a quiet rebellion against a version of myself she had tried to leave behind. Meanwhile, Isabel was basking in the illusion of a fresh start, wrapped up in the honeymoon phase with Daniel Carter. I caught pieces of their story through casual mentions, overheard remarks from mutual acquaintances who had no idea of the real history. They spoke of her at elegant parties, dressed in designer gowns, smiling on Daniel's arm as he boasted about his latest real estate triumph. She must have thought she had struck gold, swapping me for someone with deeper pockets and a more effortless charm. I could picture it clearly, the way she tossed her hair, batted her lashes, played the perfect partner, while Daniel flaunted his success. It didn't sting as much as I expected. Let her enjoy it. I knew the truth, the secret she hadn't told him yet, her infertility. The very thing she had once used to break me was now her own ticking time bomb. Daniel, so fixated on legacy, had no idea, and I wasn't in any rush to be the one to enlighten him. Time would handle that for me. That night, after the conference, I returned to my penthouse. The city sprawled below, shimmering with lights and movement, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had claimed my place above it all. Loosening my tie, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, savoring the slow burn as it slid down my throat. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed across the screen. I nearly ignored it, probably a reporter fishing for a quote, but something made me answer. Hello. And then I froze. Isabel, we need to talk, she said. Her voice lacked its usual edge. No confidence, no sneering arrogance, just hesitation, uncertainty. I let the silence stretch between us, savoring the shift in power. A part of me wanted to make her wait, to hear her squirm, but a bigger part of me simply didn't care. She had spoken her piece on my birthday. I wasn't in the mood for an encore. Without a word, I ended the call, dialing the phone down. I took another slow sip of my drink. The fire in my throat was more satisfying than anything she could have given me. I leaned against the counter, looking out at the city, thinking about how far I'd come. Just 2 months ago, I had once eaten alone in that private dining room, divorce papers staring back at me like a cruel joke. Now, I was the man investors raised their glasses to, the names splashed across tech articles alongside phrases like visionary and industry disruptor. Isabel had no clue. She still pictured me as the shattered man she had discarded, struggling to find his footing. She had no idea about the $10 million contract, the explosive success of my startup, or the penthouse I had bought outright. And she certainly didn't know that Daniel, her new prize, was unknowingly funding my empire, back in my future, while she clung to his arm. The irony was almost poetic. Standing by the window, I gazed at the skyline, letting my thoughts drift. What did she want? Was Daniel starting to connect the dots? Had her carefully spun lies begun to unravel? Word had reached me that he'd been pressing her about children, at first casually, then more insistently. She had probably brushed him off with a laugh, thrown in some sweet distraction. But Daniel wasn't the type to drop something that mattered to him. He wanted an heir, a legacy, and Isabel could never give him one. I could have told her months ago. I had the specialist report, the truth she had hidden from me while I took the blame, but she didn't deserve my sympathy. She had stood by while her family whispered behind my back, let them tear me down for something that had never been my fault. She had let me drown in disgrace while she walked away untouched. Now, she was the one sinking, and I wasn't reaching out to save her. I took a slow sip of whiskey, letting the warmth settle in my chest. I felt nothing, no need for closure, no interest in whatever excuses she had lined up. My life had never been better, and she no longer had any place in it. That day's conference had proven as much. While I was building something real, something unstoppable, she was chasing an illusion, a dream that was already beginning to crack. It was only a matter of time before Daniel saw through her. Maybe he already had. And when that moment came, she would have nothing. No mansion, no luxury cars, no devoted husband waiting to catch her when she fell. Just the ruins of the choices she had made. I switched off the lights and headed to bed, the city humming below like a constant reminder of how far I had come. For a brief moment, her call echoed in my mind, the uncertainty in her voice, the hesitance. I pushed aside. She had made her bed. I had no intention of lying in it with her. Let her drown. I had bigger things ahead. Tomorrow, Marcus and I were meeting with new investors, and I had a keynote to prepare. My world was moving forward while hers was falling apart, and that was more than enough. 3 months had passed since that night, since I had let her voice flicker through the line before cutting her off. The days had blurred into weeks, the weeks into months, and she never called again. I assumed she had finally understood, or maybe Daniel had kept her too preoccupied to bother me. Either way, I had stopped caring long ago.